Hello, Internet friend. Today on Value Side, it's the mystery of the jobs report, how the numbers simply don't add up. I'm David Ravel. Well, this week, Wall Street discovered a mystery that has many seeing red, literally, because when the official government reported numbers don't add up, it sends the street into a tailspin, prompting suspicion of the very worst. It all began with good news. You may have seen the headline: U.S. job growth exceeds expectations. That was quickly followed by another headline that showed that the unemployment rate held steady at 4.7%. So, if a bunch of new employees were hired, a reported 115,000, and the number of unemployed did not go up, the rate was steady at 4.7%, then as night followed day, it must follow that more people are working, and happy days are here again. But before we continue, we should note that all of these statistics came from the Department of Labor, the agency that has been the most scrutinized among federal reporting agencies. It's partly because the DOL deals with the country's politically charged employment conditions. Politicians throughout the nation point to increasing employment as a result of their policies. And of course, declining employment would be cast as a result of their opponents' policies. Bluntly put, every politician, including the current president and Congress, want to see employment numbers rise during their term in our office. We've seen the extreme pressure that President Trump exerted on the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. Well, you can bet that the same amount of pressure is being put on the Department of Labor to show positive employment numbers, just the sort of numbers that we saw in these two reports. Now, the administration wanted just sort of positive payroll numbers, that plus 115,000, as it hit the headlines. And stop right there, went the White House thinking. Indeed, most of the media did just that, stopping at a headline or a soundbite. But Wall Street went a little further. There was one more report that would prove the case of the better national employment, and that's the total labor force report. If 115,000 new jobs were added and unemployment remained the same, then the total number of Americans working must have increased, right? Well, no, that wasn't the case at all. Total U.S. employment is declining, not increasing. Wall Street cried foul. Something must be amiss. The street was first to shout that this administration must be cooking the books. How else could the numbers of new hires increase, unemployment remain steady, and yet the total number of workers decline? It's inexplicable. Now, you can bet this will be a major issue in the coming congressional elections, which are beginning right about now. Quote, "How often have I said to you that when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth," said Sherlock Holmes. The reason so many disregard the Department of Labor is that it is the one reporting department that deals most directly with major demographic trends nationwide. It was the Department of Labor that muddled through the COVID-19 pandemic, estimating that later proved to be far off the mark and had to be revised. Currently, the Department of Labor must estimate those same employment figures during the retirement of the country's largest generation, the boomers. We're living during the peak 65 years, which began in 2024 and is expected to continue through 2027. During this time, an estimated 11,200 boomers retire every single day. It's no wonder that this creates a headache for the Department of Labor. Case in point, there's an old high school buddy of mine who has worked in the purchasing department of a major manufacturing company for nearly his entire career. I've omitted his name or the company's name. It's a remarkable track record of nearly 50 years of employment with the same company. Now he knows the end-to-end details of every component and every raw material that the company uses to make its finished products. Nearly a decade ago, the company automated the purchasing process so that their computers could now trace and track all of those items. Nonetheless, they've continued to employ my friend because he often finds minor discrepancies in the quality or standards of the raw materials that enter the factory. Now, a month ago, the company approached my friend and offered him an enhanced retirement deal. After all, he's now in his 70s and is considered retiring. He accepted the offer and is now retired. So, what does it mean in the DOL statistic tables? He's not unemployed. He wasn't fired. He's retired. The shorthand is that he doesn't fit neatly into the Department of Labor's employment categories. He slipped through the cracks. No longer employed, but neither unemployed nor laid off. And he's not alone. In the past 6 months, over 1.5 million boomers have joined him in retiring from their jobs. Thus, the labor force declines, but the unemployment rate remains unchanged. This appears to be what we're seeing in the current Department of Labor reports. A massive demographic shift is impacting the country, and the Department of Labor is struggling to report this dramatic change in our country's workforce. Now, two other economic reports published this week deserve your attention. The first is the oil rig count. We're all feeling the impact of high prices in oil, its refined product, diesel, and gasoline. Of course, this is all due to the Iran war, which began on February 28th. So it's especially interesting to watch the action of major oil companies in their current drilling activity. Although he's been in office for less than 18 months, President Trump's term has been among the most volatile for the oil patch. When Trump entered the office in January of 2025, oil companies had 489 oil rigs operating, about the same number they've operated since 1987. It seemed about right, with oil at $80 a barrel. By August, however, oil swooned to just $59 a barrel, and drillers shut down 79 wells in response to the decline in demand. The price of oil remained depressed through January of this year, and I'm sure that the oil executives thought that this low demand likely meant a recession was on its way. Their call appeared to be right on the money, but in February, demand and price remain low. Then out of the blue came the Iran conflict, undeclared, unannounced. President Trump initiated a war on the single largest supplier of international oil on February 28. The price skyrocketed, and American oil companies were caught flat-footed. They now had too few rigs, only 410, actively drilling to meet the new demand. Unfortunately, it takes weeks or months to bring drilling rigs online, and that's just where we are currently. According to Baker Hughes, one of the largest oil service companies, only one new rig was started drilling last week, and it looks like it's going to be some time before American companies can meet the excessive demand coming because of this ongoing war. Now, the second report to look at is consumer sentiment. The University of Michigan has been tracking consumer sentiment since 1978, measuring the ups and downs of everyday's American economic view of the country. In the 21st century, sentiment has fallen to below 50% 4 times, with more than half of Americans pessimistic about the future. The 4 previous times were during the financial crisis of 2008, the economic turmoil and financial downgrade of U.S. debt in 2011, the reaction to the Ukraine war in 2022, and today. Because consumers' actions are vital to economic activity, accounting for about 2/3 of all the economic transactions, sentiment is one of the most important measures of future growth or recession. Unless we see a turnaround soon, this negative sentiment level will hang over this economy. Again, it will likely be a significant factor in the upcoming elections and in the financial markets' behavior ahead. And that's our look at this week's most significant economic reports. A likely answer to the mysterious anomaly in the jobs report, the oil industry caught flat-footed in the Iran war, and consumer sentiment languishing at historic lows. And that's today's Value Side. For all of our articles and podcasts, visit valueside.com. I'm David Ravel. ValueSide is independently written and researched. The views expressed are strictly my own.